Joining us now to respond, Fox News contributors Kaylee McGee-White and Lisa Booth, along with Project 21 chairman Horace Cooper. I want to start with you, Lisa. Are you surprised by how quickly the left jumped on even this case, even before the bodies of children have been recovered, to make politics out of it?
No, sadly. I mean, the Democrat Party has traded its morality for Trump derangement syndrome. And this isn't just, Rahm Emanuel's mantra of don't let a crisis go to waste. They revel in the crisis. They want the crisis. They want the chaos. And they revel in it if they can blame it on President Trump. I mean, what other president would be blamed for a 100-year catastrophe? For a flood in the area known as Flash Flood Alley, for a river rising 26 feet in 45 minutes, but President Trump. But the most disgusting part about this, Charlie, is that doctor out of Houston, Texas, who said that Trump supporters got what they deserved. Yeah. And what's so chilling about that is the reality of today's political left. It's not just some online faceless troll wishing death upon your children. It's your pediatrician, the person entrusted with your child's care. So the Democrat Party has a real mental health crisis on their hands, and it's Trump derangement syndrome, but it's got a lot of consequences.
Yeah, can you imagine looking up and realizing that that's your child's pediatrician saying something like that?
Exactly.
Kaylee, in the last election, we sort of saw this snapback among voters where they lurched back towards common sense and they voted for a common sense agenda. They voted to return to sanity. Do you think that in this current political environment, the electorate, the American electorate, will be turned off by this?
I think they're absolutely going to be turned off by Democrats' rhetoric here. As a soon-to-be mom, I've spent all day thinking about the family of Blair and Brooke Harbor, 13 and 11-year-old sisters who were found dead, still holding their hands together after they were recovered from the river 15 miles from where they went missing in their cabin. And I don't know how their parents voted in the last election, and I can't imagine thinking for a single second that it matters. And the fact that there are some on the left who do, that reveals a special kind of moral decay. Normal people don't look at a natural disaster and look to assign partisan blame as children's bodies are still being pulled from the water. Normal people pray. They seek solace in their community, and they try and find ways to support. And I'll just say, the fact that those on the left can't seem to do that, to Lisa's point, it just shows that the left's vitriol actually was never just directed towards Donald Trump. It was also directed towards his supporters, or in this case, people who are perceived to be his supporters simply because of where they live. Again, that is a special kind of moral rot that the left needs to come out and condemn quickly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Horace, it is kind of a remarkable scam that Democrats have. They have they've convinced half of the electorate in America that the government can control the weather, and that if you vote for them, they'll make the weather good, but if you vote for the other people, the weather is going to be bad. And I'm most reminded of former President Obama, who, as you probably recall, in 2008 ran on a campaign promise of calming the seas. And if you voted for him, he would restore the weather to what it was supposed to be. Of course, Americans gave him 2 shots, and apparently he didn't fix the weather. But that's a pretty remarkable sort of scam to pull on American voters, and then half the electorate buys into it.
Well, Charlie, I've got some good news. Half the electorate does not believe that. They don't believe that that's nonsense. Maybe about 20 or 25%. I also want to mention that the camps in question are an institution in the state of Texas, and they often provide the kind of ethical, faith-based leadership for these young people. When my brother and I, we are native Texans. When my brother and I were in junior high, we went to one of the camps a little further west. But the point is, these values of integrity, of responsibility, of not simply losing your mind and watch the devastation of families and try to exploit that. We would never, ever have thought to do something like this. And so this is really, really sad. And what I'd like to see is some senior Democrats call out their party and their supporters and say, stop doing this.
You know, Lisa, I hope Horace is right that it is only 20% of their electorate that falls for this. But it is kind of interesting that they're attacking Donald Trump for wanting to make the federal government more efficient. One of the reasons you would want the government to be more efficient is so that it could handle things like weather alert systems better. But that's not the direction they take it.
Well, yeah, and we've already seen, you know, the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem on the ground saying, look, we want to make government better. We want to make the system better. We want to make sure that people are alerted. But it doesn't seem like that was the issue here. It seems like we just had a catastrophic 100-year flood that took place and a river rising 26 feet in 45 minutes. And that's just, there's nothing we could have done about it. But no, I don't think that anyone in the Democrat leadership is going to be responsible or going to take some sort of, you know, are going to say that what is happening on the left is wrong, because unfortunately, I think that they hate Trump too much.
Yeah.
And that's where we are as a society, and that's where the Democrat Party is as a party.
And of course,
that they're blinded by hatred. And
of course, the smell of power is just too much for them to do something reasonable like that. Thank you all so much. Kaylee McGee White, Lisa Booth, Horace Cooper.